together, and most importantly, doing so well. You know, lots of success in that family that you look at and you're thinking, wow, they are doing so well. They have focused much on their careers. The woman has been allowed to fly and do what she can do best. Same applies to the man, and the kids follow suit. But there's always a delicate balance. I mean, there's always a tough thing in terms of just getting to strike a balance on this one. And therefore, it is worth that we have this conversation so that we get to understand, even as we are in love, even as we are setting up our families, what happens to our careers? Do you want your woman to go back there and become a housewife and, you know, just die in that? Or do you want her to go out there and explore the things that she can? Let her be what it is that she can be. You know, let's run away from this notion that, oh, you're an African woman and the place of an African woman is in the kitchen. I mean, and even as you allow her to go out there and fly, does it then mean that she forgets her responsibilities? Does it then mean that you as a man would forget your responsibility and say that you're hugely into your career and you tend to forget what you're supposed to do for your family? You do not create time for your kids. You do not create time for your wife. She goes out there, she forgets to cook for the family and all these things. So it is good that we have this conversation this morning, and, you know, there's no better way to do it than to have the Kimanis that will join us for this particular conversation. They do so well in their very own respective careers. And evidently, over the years, looking at them, we do not say that they do not have ups and downs. And I'm not here to speak for them because they're here. But reality is that for the few of us who've seen them for the longest of time, we can attest to the fact that they have been so much into their career, but as well, they're doing so well family-wise. And so we just want to get some tips and understand how best do you strike a balance on this. Long gone are those days when we would say that career should be the last thing that comes when we're talking about marriage. And so Dr. Jane and Dr. Julius, the Kimanis, are here with us this morning. We missed you last time. Was it last week or last week but one? It was last week. What happened?
I was on another show. I was watching you people by the
Oh yeah? All right, that's good.
The screen was on the other side.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And we're happy to have you back.
Thank you.
We sent our greetings. I hope
I got them.
you got them.
Yes.
I know even if you didn't, you can say you did know.
No, I did.
You did, eh?
Yeah.
All right, that's amazing. So love and career. Oh, this one is one subject that we can never exhaust, you know, because every other time you'd want to speak about it, because in every household you would be told that there's always trouble that will come as to that. I'm sorry to use this, and I'm sorry to my dad to say this, but I remember there's a time my mom was telling me this story, that he actually went to her boss and told this boss, who told you I cannot take care of my wife 100%. That is to say, wacha akae nyumbani, I have enough money to take care of her, you know? And my mom was like, no, you know? No, my mom is not the kind that that would bow to that. But you can imagine what played out in this case. And it happens across very many families. So it starts from that level. Where do we start having conversations as to love and career, especially when we're headed to marriage?
Yeah. You know, I think I've had several of those occasions where I've had to deal with couples that are preparing to get married. And at times, like, I would cite one with their permission, of course, names withheld, but with their permission, of a couple that was so deeply in love. The husband being a pastor, called into the pastoral, let me put it that way, called into the pastoral, and the wife being a medic. And it was blended. It was a blended relationship. Because one had children, the other had children. And the question that came to me was, how are we going to bond? Because of her night duty, she closes very late. So there are times when you'll have to make a choice. And there are times one of you will have to make a choice. What do I do? What changes do I need to institute? What sacrifice do I need to pay? And in today's life, if you choose to make a career sacrifice, then that also should be lined up with what is going to cater for that financial gap. Yeah, because anything that you're doing today caters for a financial gap. So what will cater for that financial gap? So I feel these are questions that every couple needs to ask themselves at certain points in life. Again, we find couples who are now married and they've gone through a financial hitch, and they decide one person can go to Dubai or can go elsewhere, go look, even America, go look for jobs and support the family back at home. And at times you have to look at what are the pros and the cons. And at the end of the day, yes, it is job, but underlying, we need finances. So what else can we do? Yes, there are times when you have to make the tough decisions. That this relationship may not work out if there is not a balance, there is not a sacrifice. And if there is, yes, a sacrifice, what are we going to repay for the person who has taken a sacrifice on one side? Are we going to tell them, start your own clinic? Is there the money to do that? And these are conversations you have with such couples. And we tell them, then give it time to grow. But yes, there are the pros and the cons.
Well, you know, Dr. Julius, I'd love for my questions this morning to be examples and examples and examples, but anyway, we can't focus much on that. I just had a recent conversation with a very senior person, you know, in the police unit, tourism police unit, and she tells me that, you know what, unfortunately, I lost my marriage because of this, because most of the times I was up in the forces, and you know, my husband could not take that. And now that I am in position, a big position, and I'm able to dictate the livelihoods of the people who are my juniors, in most cases, the first thing I'll ask them is, where is your family?
Thank you.
I'll struggle so hard to make sure that they stay close to their family. But I would want to believe that, like Dr. Jane says, you know what, sometimes there are sacrifices that need to be made. My assumption is that every time it is a sacrifice.
Yeah.
In fact, Linda, there is no relationship that does not require sacrifice in one way or another. Whether you are in very good careers and you have good opportunity to be with your family, there's still a sacrifice that will be made, because there will come a time when there's a call of duty, either in the work or in your family, that you have to make a decision for one of them. And I value the sentiments of such a person who has actually looked at her life and seen that she lost her family because of work. But I usually say this thing: you need to understand what is the purpose of getting into marriage. Because the moment you understand the purpose of anything, then you will make a decision based on protecting that purpose. Now, for example, the reason why people get married, number one, is for company. Will that work allow you people to have enough company with each other? Number two, children will come. Will those children be able to be raised up in the right way, in the right environment? Because we've had cases of for counseling where you find children, because of either their father being away for long, they have lost direction and they have lost their mannerisms. And you find by the time the father comes back, he has no relationship to be able to talk to these kids because they are looking at a stranger. So we need to, when we talk about career and marriages, it requires three things. Number one, it requires something that we call preparation. You have to be prepared mentally. And you have to see far, because most people get into relationship, you're marrying to this guy who is a CEO, but you have not realized that the guy probably never has time at home. So there is need for preparation. There is also need for intentionality. Be intentional on what you're going to do in that relationship. And number three, there has to be a lot of decision making. You have to be ready to sit on the table and agree on a lot of things. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the purpose of marriage. Is it going, at the end of the day, going to achieve what you wanted? Right. Yes.
Okay. Dr. Jane, I don't know whether this is the case, but in most cases, it has been the woman to pull the sacrifice. It has been the woman to be moved from point A to point B as they go to where the man is working. It has been the woman to be told, you know what, you can't fly abroad because whom are you going to leave these kids with? It has been for the woman to be told, it's all right, you can stay at home, take care of the kids, I'll bring money to the family. In as much as times have changed, and we see women who are out there also equally doing as much as men are doing. But again, that has caused lots of problems, because you're told, you know, this career woman, once you start living with this career woman, they will not submit, they will not be, you know, as they're supposed to be. And even when cases arise and they come to counselors, there's always the woman who's looked at with those eyes of, you have failed. Yes.
They're judged in advance.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. Women, because of societal expectations, you know, all of us are from a certain society. And from societal expectations, the man brings the bread home. From the traditional concept, the man brings the bread home. there is not a tradition, except a few, by the way. I saw some, I think, I won't mention where, in a side in Kenya, where it's the women who build the houses,
Yes.
and all this and all that, and the men outside sitting on some funny seats.
Imagine.
So, in many societies, 98% of them, it is the woman who is supposed to take care of the home. She is the nurturer, and the man is the breadwinner. Let me tell you this, Linda, take it or leave it. A woman does not have the patience to take care of the home for the next 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
She will burn out,
Okay.
as much as she's bringing in the bread. Assume the husband decides, I'm going to be a house husband. You be a working wife, I'll be a house husband.
It won't be for long.
It won't be for long, because for a start, we are not wired to constantly provide. We are also wired to be catered, to be taken care of.
Okay.
So when you constantly take care of, even our wiring, emotionally, biologically, it does not have the hormones to keep us going. These men are wired with the hormones that keep them going, whether it's raining or shining or not.
Okay.
And does that mean that there are not women who do that? There are women who do that. But that is against the grain. Because women will do it when there is no option. A woman will live and die for her children, for her family. However, many times you find the woman puts down the sacrifice and the man now goes to work, because that is societal. And at home, let me tell you, as much as, yes, we've got very good house husbands, because at times men are in between jobs, in between, and very wise men. There's a time he was a house husband. Very wise men will take up the role and decide, I'll be the house husband for now. I'll ensure, and you know, those days I would go to, I don't like using the word hustle, but I would go to look for something to do.
Right.
And by the time I'm coming back, the boy has eaten, he has cooked, it is our early stages of marriage. He has cooked, the boy has eaten, everything is clean, and I would feel that kind of a thing.
Right.
And yes, it will continue, but for how long? That's the question. And that's why most men will not even want a woman who tells them, because women, again, control ya mdomo wanga ni shida.
That's true.
Yeah, not necessarily me, but many. Hapana, nimelipa school fees.
Yeah.
Nimelipa isa mi naenda chama, because women will easily wear the trouser if they're not controlled.
Okay.
They'll easily wear the trouser in the house.
All right.
And they'll want the man's mind to wear the skirt.
Okay.
You're not working, therefore your mind has a skirt. I'm working, therefore my mind has a trouser. And let me tell you, that's a manipulation that has caused men to say, leave it or make it. I am going to work, you stay at home. Because at the end of the day, I need my honor, I need my respect. And if women would assure men that I'll still give you your honor, I'll still give you your respect, I'll still regard you as the head of this home, irrespective of this or the other, there would be no problem.
Okay.
But women tend to burn out, and when they burn out, most women, 80%, tend to talk carelessly. And no telling, how do you tell a man that in front of his own children?
Okay.
You see, now, what happens, a man's ego gets beaten so down that he feels, I would rather not be the one outside there. I want to preserve my position and my dignity. And you know, stay at home. Let me go see how it works out. So I think the essence of the woman being that they're the ones staying at home and the man is working has come a long journey.
Wow, makes a lot of sense. But Dr. Well, maybe just to play the devil's advocate, this is now for the women. And I don't know whether you had to offer some coins to her this morning so that she's in favor of the men. But all the same, we're here. Currently, I don't know whether it's this generation or what. And I've sat down with very many women. I've had these complaints that, well, it's okay. They could be a little bit, lazy, and they could be a little bit careless with how they speak. But reality is that the men of today, they literally sit down and wait. And when they wait, they don't wait like you waited. They wait, and you come back home, say at 9, and you have to go back to the kitchen to fix meals for them. They stay at home. It's genuine, it's all right. They probably have not been lucky enough to get a job, but they won't even do the basics. You come back home, the little man came back from the office, from school. You cannot even assist with the homework. You cannot even try and find out, well, what does the teacher say? What requires to be bought, so that you can call mama and tell her, come back home with this, because the child is being asked for it in school. So it appears that, you know, the women are equally drained for a reason. They're justified to speak the way they do. They're justified to feel like, you know what, they're being wasted. They're justified to say, I'd rather go my way. I know that I'm doing this alone, as opposed to having someone who's just seated here, would not even do, not necessarily wear the skirt, but at least attempt to.
True.
Yeah.
Now, one thing, you know, the reality is, it is not actually per se wearing a skirt.
Yeah.
You know, like the time I didn't have a job and I sat in that home, I had a conversation with myself and I asked myself, what will it reduce me if I clean the dishes? Will it make me less of a man? Will suddenly my hands become feminine because I've done the dishes? Will it mess me up because I've changed the diapers of my son? And I realized it is just a mentality that we wear, that you want to prove. Some men have taken the wrong mentality of what a man is. That when you sit in the house and everybody is working, that's when you feel like a man. And sometimes it is where we have come from, because we have a patriarchal society, and we cannot blame them because that's the way they were. And were able, that time men were able to provide, because when a man goes out, he makes sure that he has to come back, either he has hunted and brought back the meat home. And the woman, on the other hand, has taken care of the home 100%. So there is that warped mentality where you feel like if you do housework as a man, then you have reduced your dignity. And I remember sitting in that house and looking at the words of Christ when after he was crucified, and he comes back and finds all the disciples are scattered. And there were some of them had gone back fishing. He actually prepared a meal for them. As a man, as God, sitting at the seashore, making fish and calling them in. And I was like, if God can cook, even me as a man, as I can cook. And I want to challenge, because I want to challenge men who are thinking that if you're cooking for your family, you are actually reducing your dignity. Do you know, I have a closer and a deeper relationship with my son when he hears the stories that there are days I would be with him in the house and changing his stuff. And actually we had a very good rapport with him. And through teenage, we've not had an issue with him. Why? Because we had a relationship. But we have men who don't have a relationship with their children because they're like, I don't want to do homework. Homework ni ya mama. Na labda ni kwa sababu ajui 1+1 hapo. Anashindwa kufanya hiyo CBC mathematics. Kwa hivyo anajifanya ati ni mbaya. Anyway, that's just about joke. But I'm saying, the reality is this. You have a better relationship with your kids because you have time to spend with them. And number 2 thing that I learned, I was able to respect her role as a woman. Because while I was sitting in that house, I realized this is, hii tunasemaga tu wamama wamekaa nyumbani wafanyagi kitu. Kumbe hii kitu ni kazi. So by the end of the day, I would be hoping for her to come home and take a job. And at the same time, she was able to understand that being a man is not an easy thing. So when a man goes out there and comes back with 500 bob, you really need to realize the struggles he has been through. So I would say that for any man, it is good to have a conversation with yourself. Realize that nothing will make you less of a man if you do. Actually, it will bring you higher.
Okay. All right. There's still more on this, and especially in that aspect of now the rest of the family. And I'm glad that you bring up the question of the child or the children in the family setup. That sometimes, you know, as parents, you're out there. You know, you mentioned CBC, and I just remembered one of the reasons why we have CBC is that the government says parents have been absent for the longest of time, and therefore they need to be brought back. I don't know how true that is, and I don't know whether sometimes they are absent because they would choose to be, or it's just because, well, times are tough and genuinely you have to be there. I don't know how much we make adjustments to make sure that we also create a time for our family, but it is possible. So let's take a quick breather and still come and understand love and career. And when we're talking about love and career, remember, it's not just between the two of you. It equally trickles down to the other members of the family. How does this aspect of career affect them? Positively, negatively? Importantly, how do we strike a balance?